Makes sense.
Hereby call this meeting to order at 8:30 p.m. Before we have roll call, I'm going to call up our new senator. Engineer. All right, if you just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, name of office holder.
I, name of office holder.
So you can say I, your name.
I, Shubham Jure.
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office in the name of the office.
Do solemnly swear that I will execute the office
Of engineering at large
engineering at large
of Valparaiso University
of Valparaiso University
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the interest of the Valparaiso University Student Senate
the interest of Valparaiso University Student Senate
and the student body of Valparaiso University.
and the student body of Valparaiso University.
Congratulations, you're new senator. right, with that, Secretary Shells, can you please call roll? Here.
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 Senator Dawson, Senator Lennon, Senator Walton.
Here.
Senator Hernandez, Harry. Senator Christopher. Senator Wilcoxen. Here. Senator Maldonado. Here. Senator Neiman.
Here.
Senator Frizo. Here. Senator Westfall. Here. Senator Abraham. Here. Senator Hildebrand. Here. Senator Roth.
Here.
Senator Vada.
Here.
Senator Williamson. Here. Senator Ward. Here. Senator Cavender.
Here.
Senator Botry. Here. Senator Howard. Here. Senator Sedler. Here. Senator Flanagan. Here. Senator Gillespie. Here. Senator Cameron. Here. Senator Belvins. Oh, sorry. And a roll.
All right, thank you, Secretary Shells. Now, please welcome Dr. Michael Chicalisi to talk about the strategic plan.
Me a favor. Can I get on the website here? Okay. Just look at the strategic plan. Okay.
Strategic. Sorry.
Should be, okay. Hello, everybody. For those that I've not met, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to talk about strategic plan. Both Carrie and Steve or I sit on this leadership team that we're going through this enormous strategic plan for the university. And ever about 5 years or so, we sort of look at what has happened the past 5 years and get together as a university community and plan for the next 5 years, all with all of you in mind, to give you a better experience and to propel this university into the future. So we are embarking on that process now, and we thought it was a good idea to talk a little bit about it, give you some understanding. You may have heard it from other places. You may be asked to give input in other places as well, but we wanted to come to this body as a representative of the student body for your perspective from this standpoint. You might have other perspectives as a student in class or different perspectives in other ways, but for this group, we wanted to just talk to you a little bit about this and get some ideas on what we should be doing moving forward to make this an even better university. So there is on our website a lot of information about our strategic plan. So there are 4 areas that we are focused on. So you can watch the video later. And what I want to focus on really are these 4 areas. So there are 4 things we're focused on. 1 is creating an unparalleled experience here at Valpo. 2 is creating uncommon relationships at Valpo. 3rd is creating unmistakable value. And then 4th, how are we distinctly Valpo? And what we're looking for are different ideas in each one of these categories. And so today, what I want to talk about is focus on the unparalleled experience, your experience as students. How can we as a university do even better than what we're doing now? And these initiatives and ideas will be put together as part of this great group that we're all working on. And so I want to get as many ideas on things that we should be doing going forward. And so I want you to maybe think about that. And if you can jot some things down, that would be great. And Steve, Carrie, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I would just say that in the unparalleled experience area, there are leadership groups meeting about this. And we are really looking for input around sort of 4 main themes within there. And one of those is being prepared to lead. The other is
High impact practices.
a focus on high impact practices that affect our learning, things like internships, things like that. Enhancing a sense of belonging and inclusion. And then finally, being focused on improving retention and graduation overall. So those are the main areas. But I think for tonight, it's probably useful to talk a little bit about just in general, the things that you think really would need to be enhanced to make the experience even better or more meaningful.
Okay, so just a few comments. Anybody want to share anything that you want us to know as we move forward at the university? Any thoughts? It's a perfect university, everything. Keep things the way they are, no changes.
Michael, let me add this too.
Okay.
So Carrie and I brought this up in class. We have a leadership class that we teach, and we were teaching a session about inspiring shared visions. And we asked the students in class to do a small group activity in class around things that they think really needed to be improved at the university, a vision that people could get behind and share about improvements at the institution. And so the student groups came forward really with ideas around improvements in the library, around library space, about collaborative learning environments in the library, about using our community room space more effectively for student collaboration, learning, and then the other area, and two groups focused on that, and one of the other groups focused on space for student recreation, space for student sports, a real rec center, some kind of facility like that. So that's an example of when we took it into a classroom and asked students about it. That's what they did. So I don't know if that helps you kind of get your gears turning.
Everything today, okay, we what the idea to let you know that this is going on and to give you sort of the direction to provide feedback to us. If you think of anything, if there's anything important that you want us to know, there's information on how you can reach us. And so if you look at the unparalleled experience, sort of what we're focused on here, you can see the biggest part of what we're focused on here is students, all of you. The student experience. How do we create an environment that supports all of you? So if you have any ideas, any thoughts on what we should do, because we want to make sure that we're not just sitting in the room, because we're not students. We want to make sure that we get your perspective, your thoughts on this. So just wanted to let you know that this is going on at the university. And if you have any ideas, any thoughts, please let us know. Okay? So thank you.
Before we move on, were there any questions for Dr. Chialese? Senator Bakri?
Yeah.
It's not really a question, it's more of a comment or something I've heard, from constituents.
Okay.
It is listed up there, but I know a big thing is like tuition. I know there was like a tuition freeze, but I think people want to know like in the future, what like the tuition will be and if it's gonna increase and stuff like that. And then going along with that kind of just like fund transparency, so like what our tuition is being used for, to like where the money's going.
Okay, so tuition and cost, where if it's going to go up, why, what is it used for, whatever, yeah, just a little more transparency. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's a good point. Okay, any other?
I would just say, I think people in here are being very quiet, like,
Oh.
this is your time. This is, you represent the student and the student voice, so Dr. Lizzie and those who are here, please share. If you have an idea, a thought, if you ever sat around and you're like, ah, damn, I really love this is the time to share that. So you don't need to share a massive backstory about it, because, you know, at the point, like, hey, I don't know what awesome. You can absolutely answer that, and that's something that you can more transparent about. What else do you need in order to maybe to tell somebody else that they should go to Belleville because we have the best college experience here at Belleville? So what is that?
If I may add, you guys just did constituency reports. So you should have some issues that you talked about with your constituents coming up right now.
Oh, yes.
I would like to step in what you said about the funding, that's something that I also wrote about, just an awareness and just about, where exactly it is going. And I also wanted to, and I don't know if this is really necessarily something that a person will look at is why my experience is great, but I think that, maybe find two in all buildings is very important. I think that there are some older buildings that do not have accessibility, and that's really not okay, especially if you're trying to get to class and you have to wait for somebody to come by to open the door for you or something like that. So, I think that's really important.
So that's an important part of an unparalleled experience here, is to be able to, okay, that's good feedback. So much.
Senator Wilcoxon?
So I'm in a 300 level class that I didn't know I could get a tutor for, so I think expanding peer tutoring, because you can only have a tutor for 100 or 200.
So right now, it's only 100, 200, you say expand it to 300?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just think there's not really a solution for people who are struggling in higher level classes.
Senator Flanagan?
Great, thank you so much.
I know there is like one concern that I didn't write my position report or anything, but in my mind, like diversifying, like the faculty is definitely a really issue, and like for some kinds of people, like different, like different groups and everything. I know like there could be like a couple staff who are like people of color and like they kind of like, that's like who we advertise, and we only have like 5 color. I don't know how many, but it's not a lot, I know that. I just think like bringing more and kind of diversity to staff. Black, what kind of students?
Senator Sutcliffe? Oh, sorry.
To jump off like the accessibility, I think that goes like a lot of different ways, but I'm a tour guide for on campus, and we notice like more diverse populations coming in regarding like accessibility, too, and like that's been a big issue, and like as tour guides, we're trying to like demonstrate like, yes, this is where you should be, but it's hard to do that if they don't necessarily feel like they'll be able to like make their way around campus adequately. And then also to jump off of Senator Flanagan, like not necessarily tokenizing our minority students, but building a more like diverse and equitable place without tokenizing.
Senator Bakri?
Thank you so much.
I have a deeper question. So is there like a plan for like empty buildings or buildings like shield around something?
That is, yes, there's not necessarily a plan. There are probably options that are on the table. So, Steve, I don't know if you want to speak to buildings, building use, how the university makes.
So you asked about Shield specifically. So Shield Hall is directly connected to Lake Now. So in order to do anything with Shield Hall, we have to take Lake Now offline. So Lake Now was just partially renovated. We're continuing to think about renovations to that space because it's one of our freshman residence halls. And so the 2 buildings are connected electrically, water-wise, structurally. So there's absolutely nothing, gas, all the things. Like, so there's absolutely nothing we can do with Shield until we take Lake offline. So that's why Shield continues to sit. Now we can renovate Shield, but we can't take Shield down or do anything with it without impacting Lake Now. And so it actually costs almost as much to detach the 2 buildings as it would to just take them both down at the same time. So it's a longer conversation. So that's to answer your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
And then my other question was just being more transparency around like efforts to recruit students of color or retention of students of color.
You say more transparency around.
Yeah.
In other words, you want to know more about the efforts, what is being done.
Yeah. And like programs or initiatives we have to feel like
Senator Ruff and Senator.
Okay, thank you for that.
Recently, I've been talking with Alliance about resources for transgender students on campus. And one of the things that came up very briefly was the fact that Belleville doesn't really have a good trans/LGBTQ inclusive housing policy on campus, which is really important because students are expected to be on campus for 3 years. And so looking at what other universities do around this issue and trying to find a way to be inclusive to those groups would be very helpful.
I just think what everybody said about like diversifying faculty, staff, and students. Also kind of like diversifying the amount of classes that we have. I know for my major specifically, I'm just like focused on specific geographic areas, and the ones that I want to focus on haven't been taught in like a while. So like the policies for like Africa or the Middle East haven't been on it. I'm assuming they're not like the rest of the world. So it's like figuring out a way to do something like that. Because I feel like we're bringing more students who want to focus on these majors than other students that aren't on.
Senator Rapata and Senator Williamson.
Thank you so much.
And about the health center, we only get services 5 days a week.
how was the experience in terms of international students outside of just health? We need to do better with that also.
So essentially, we're doing great, but I would say that the recruitment, it's tough. I don't know if it's because we talk about that.
Okay.
I'm familiar with nursing practice. See recently left that, and see is the one who does recruiting, and all his responsibilities. It's just like see what us here, see what here, see, and we don't know. We don't know who is the other person.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Senator Williamson and Senator Westfall.
Okay,
So to go off of what several other people have said, regarding the LGBT community, I'm part of the Alliance, and in talking with people, a lot of people mentioned a concern when they first came here, either on their part or their parents' part. I talked to others, because we are a religious institution. There are people who have questioned whether or not there would be acceptance here. So I do think it is important to make clear that we do want to be an inclusive and diverse community. And that they're not, one of my friends was like, I was worried that I was going to get harassed at the Jesus school. So that's the kind of thing we really want to combat ahead of time. And also, jumping off of what Alan said about more variety in some of the classes. Just like for myself, looking towards my time, I have very few choices. It's like, these are the classes I have to take, and if they're not available, then I'm really in trouble.
I see.
And there's not even any, can I take this or maybe that?
So, thank you so much.
Senator Westfall.
I'm curious what it's like athletics, thinking about that as well. Okay, well, updating the ARC, I think, obviously, we have probably the worst facilities regarding our conference. So I think if you update the ARC, that could bring in more athletes, better athletes, which then brings in more money, since we're doing better in games.
Thank you so much.
Senator Velazquez and Senator Abraham.
I definitely want to just add to the whole accessibility issue, like even in the sorority housing complex, which was built, I want to say in 2016, there's still a lack of resources for people with disabilities to live in that house. That's a really big thing. And also with the whole like art and fitness center, it's kind of small matter, but like the fitness center is really small here. And if you're not in this sport, you really don't, you have a lot of limited access. Like there's only three weight racks, tubes, and all that. So I think expanding that facility and kind of upgrading equipment, and also like just increasing hours too, because there's very limited hours on weekends.
Senator Abraham and Senator Lennon.
Thank you so much.
So I wanted to also bring up commuter support. For this campus is becoming increasingly filled with more commuter students. So I know that there's already a commuter connect program by Molly Ray that's happening. So I just wanted to say that a lot of the students that heard about that were saying that they were really in support of that program. I think if the university can show them support for that, that would be great as well. And then in terms of the art, I work at the art, it is not the best building. And I just feel kind of sad whenever I like bring a bunch of new teams into the facilities and they're kind of looking around. I mean, there's certain things that we have that look nice, but to be honest, the facility is very, very outdated. A lot.
Okay, got a few stars by that.
Senator Lennon.
Yeah, just
Thank you.
overall campus safety, the blue foam poles are like, they're very welcome resource, but there aren't enough of them, especially going out towards Promenade and Lot 37 where the freshmen park.
Okay.
Same goes for lighting in that direction. And, myself and my other freshman senators have heard from a lot of our constituents that a lot of freshman students, especially women, aren't comfortable making that walk at night, either to or from the lot. And that's just sort of something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Senator Schumer.
So, I don't know about the other colleges, but like we're the engineering college, right? There's not a lot of companies that are coming in the career fair. So I'm a computer engineering major. I think there's like 8 or 9 computer science company, and then 4 of them just hired computer science majors. So there's 4 left for computer science, and then 3 of them just hired are looking for graduates. So like they just 1 or 2 companies looking for like sophomores, juniors, so they can't get like internship there. So maybe like have more companies come for those career fair.
Thank you.
Senator Williamson and Senator Neiman.
Oh, okay.
Just with what he was saying, I have had the same thing in college of business, we're required to have internships. And I really expected more support with internships. Like when I was applying and when I was planning to come here, that was a big selling point to me, was that I was going to have a lot of help and support finding a great internship. And there really hasn't been that much. Definitely not what I was expecting.
Senator Neiman.
So there's 3 separate issues that I've been hearing a lot about, especially recently. First of all, with the whole idea of more commuters on campus, I think that it's great that we're having more people that are local. And at the same time, people are starting to see it more as like a suitcase campus. People are going off campus because there's not much going on. So another hot topic is in BDs. What's going to go on with that? The students are very curious, but very excited at the same time. So I think there's a very unique opportunity to kind of take this culture where people are thinking that students are going home on the weekends, but now that they can have this new space, just do whatever they want during the weekends, that there's going to be a lot of people are excited to be on campus, or if it's not going to be, they're curious as to what direction that's going to be. So I guess just clarity with that and to take advantage of that. Also on a separate note, I've heard a lot of distrust in the health center recently. I'm not sure, the health center. I'm not necessarily sure why I haven't really had a negative experience, but I know a lot of people, just say, don't go to the health center because they're not going to help you. And that's just kind of the culture that I picked up on campus about it. So I'm not sure if there's like a certain course the university needs to take to try to fix that, or if there has been negative experiences. That's just what I've heard.
Senator Howard.
Thank you.
Can I to go back to like classes? I think our workload is also a thing that I like to talk about. Like we have so much work piled on us during the week that even if we wasn't going to a place like these, we don't have the time unless we're sitting there studying or like working on projects with friends. So I guess like if we're gonna have like facilities for us to have fun, we need to like adjust the amount of work that we have in classes. So we can like have fun on our weekends, like chill on a weekday or stress about a test that's coming like the following day.
Okay, so you think, on that question, what does everyone think of the workload? Class workload? So thank you for that, I want to kind of drill that back a little bit more.
I think it depends on
Yes.
major.
Yes,
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on major. I wouldn't necessarily say like the workload is too much. I think it's just more in the mindset of like, if you're going on a break soon, I know a lot of professors will say like, this is what you need to be doing over your break. So, like they'll give you assignments that you should be doing over your break instead of like letting you have that break.
okay. Okay. So maybe a little bit more of an understanding of you have lives other than just school?
Yeah.
A little bit maybe of that, but is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to move this along, we'll do 3 more.
Okay.
So Senator Cavender, Senator Robb,
Thank you.
Senator Williamson.
I was just gonna say, outside of like during story life, there's not a lot of opportunities for service. I think like going to BU, you're told that you're gonna have, 4 years, you have a lot of opportunities for service, get back to me. But they're not presented in that classroom. And
entire task force on that topic, so. Thanks for staying. I'm not crazy.
Anything more to say?
Roger Williams.
Just to echo the workload concerns, from a college of engineering perspective, you basically, my experience has been between college of engineering and gen ed requirements that I've built through Price College. I've been taking 18 to 19 credit hours for the majority of my semesters, which is, I know other students in engineering that take 20 credits some semesters. And with sort of a very telling experience with engineering faculty where they sat us down to ask about workload concerns, and they basically told us the old adage about for every hour in class you spend is 2-3 hours studying. But the issue with that is that means you should spend, if you're at 19 credits, you're spending 60 hours a week studying, which is more than a full-time job. And I know a bunch of engineering students that work part-time on top of it to pay for college, and that's a ridiculous requirement. So I know, at the very least, on the heavier credit load majors, there's an over expectation on students between huge requirements out of class, between homework, extracurriculars, studying, actual work.
Great point. Thank you for that.
Totally agree with that. I mean, I'm a mom, I work part-time, and I'm taking 19 credits every semester. It's a lot. And as a transfer student, not all of my transfer, I've had to fight to get some of my transfer credits recognized, which has been difficult. But the thing I specifically wanted to talk is that sometimes we have differences between professors where things maybe should be a little bit more standardized. So a friend of mine and I took the same class with two different professors last semester. She had homework once a week, and I had 1 to 3 hours of homework every single day, including Sundays. This professor would post our homework Sunday afternoons to Monday. And that's a lot. And it just felt like a lot of the draw because I didn't know what I was getting into. I was like, man, why didn't I sign up with the other professor? So things like that maybe should be ironed out.
Okay, it's all great perspective, so thank you. Karen, like you said, have a talk.
You're welcome. Sometimes they just need a little.
Yeah. Thank you, and please also, if you have any other ideas, these are all good. You know, listening to all of you, I think I can pull out some themes here, and I think that's what we're looking for. So I did talk to the fraternity sorority group, and they said a lot of the similar things you said. So that's what we're looking for. We want the student voice. And if we hear it enough, then we can't talk to every single student. So the idea is to try to look for things and all. So thank you for being so transparent and open, and I will forward this on. So thank you.
Thank you. I know there was a lot to be said tonight, so if you guys have any other questions or concerns, please contact Dr. Chicalisi or get in touch with one of our advisors because they also sit on strategic plan committees. So why don't we give another round of applause for Dr. Chicalisi. All right, so moving on to our agenda at 9 o'clock. So let's move on to public comment. Are there any public comments here or on YouTube? Seeing none, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve or amend the agenda? For a second? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving on to senators reports. Are there any senators reports tonight? Let's get at least one. Okay, Senator Frizo, thank you.
Trouble getting my placard in my hand there. First of all, I want to thank you for coming and for allowing us to share our concerns. I think that's very important. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what I've heard from the seniors in my constituency report. One of the biggest things that I've heard from people is diversity, whether that's how we talked about earlier with diverse faculty or a diverse student body. I've been told by students that Valpo should acknowledge that it currently is a primarily white campus.
and that we need to do better in attracting diverse students here and making them feel welcome, whether that's through the OMP or through, just generalized hiring processes or attracting these types of students to campus. And the other type of thing I've learned the most is snow removal. That it's very, even if we have some snow days, which were appreciated, but the lack of clearing of the sidewalks, particularly on the outer edges of campus, has caused some students to slip through the ice, due to the ice being covered over snow, and has caused some issues traveling around campus for students. So they would like to see, if there is bad weather, more of a plan like salting these streets and roads and sidewalks before the weather event happens, and then consistent plowing, or they would request a virtual option for classes without any sort of penalization, even if we don't have a snow day, due to hazardous travel conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Friso. Are there any other senators' reports tonight? All right, seeing none, moving on to advisors' reports.
Thanks, Ben. I don't really have anything big to report to you at this point, other than we are working on phase 2 of the Bell and Beacon in the back neighborhood areas. So we'll maintain some games back there, pool and ping pong and shuffleboard and stuff. So we'll maintain that stuff. We're going to continue the same kind of look into that space. When you come back in the fall, that will be renovated and have a matching look to it. I know that the issue of where is the alcohol policy going in the future is brought up. That is being addressed by the administration and by the board. So that will be addressed for the fall as well. Student Life is also working on a couple of proposals for the administration and also the boards to maybe create some more fun environments around football games as well. So I think that you can look for that for the fall as well. Pertaining to just overall student life activity and the alcohol policy that exists in the institution being looked at in order to accommodate some of those things. So I don't think we're headed to an environment where we're going to have alcohol all over the residence hall. I don't think that's going to happen. But I would say that is being looked at and trying to create a little bit more opportunity on campus for alcohol to be served in controlled environments, responsibly used in those environments. So, and with that, I'm not going to give you anything else to think about because, man, it's spring break. So have a great time on spring break. Be careful. We are going to have some COVID directions coming out, probably while you're on break, so advise people to keep an eye on their email. We obviously have to track things week to week, but as I told you last week, we're moving very quickly as a society toward the endemic phase of this virus, which means to say we're going to live with it as it is kind of thing. And so I think there's going to be some different approaches going forward. Certainly the fall will look very different than your past couple falls have looked. And I think that'll be welcome change for everybody. So coming out of spring break, we will have some probably some policy guidelines and directives coming back from spring break. But we are moving very quickly to get to a more kind of living with COVID kind of world. Most of the state schools, K-12 and otherwise, have already begun to move under state health department regulations to that approach. I believe it's IU that was completely national last week in all environments, and they don't have a vaccination rate. We have a higher vaccination rate, I promise. They'll tell you they do, but they can't prove it. We can prove it. So I think that you should feel like, things are heading in the right direction that way too. So be safe over spring break. Obviously, nobody tries to get sick, so do your best not to. But as we come back, I think you're going to experience the spring being even a little bit more open, so to speak, as we begin to really overcome COVID for the most part. So have a great spring break. Relax. Put down the books for at least a week and go soak up some sun. Thank you.
Are there any points of inquiry from the advisors? All right, thank you, guys. Moving on to officers' reports. President Ford.
First of all, I want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts today. It's super important that we share what you guys are getting from your constituency reports. So I'm looking forward, in the next couple of weeks when we get back from break, on working with you guys on what we can do to address some of the issues that you were able to, talk to your constituencies about. Also, I just want to thank everyone who participated in the Moonball tournament yesterday. We did pretty well. We won 2 games, which was 2 more than I thought we were going to win, so we did pretty well. And also thank you to everyone who attended the Black History Month dinner event. It was super great to see you all there, and we had a really great time. If you were not able to attend this event and are not a brand new senator, please make sure to attend at least one BSO event or meeting at some point this semester. Secretary Strauss will be contacting those of you who did not attend an event and did not email her or pay your speaker fee. Also, Vice President Jacobs and I met with President Padilla on Friday, and we had really productive conversations about potential Student Senate resolutions and future plans for the university. And then one question I had for you guys, we had a student resign from the university council. So I am looking for recommendations for filling this position. So I am not going to leave here until I have 2 recommendations, which I know you guys love. Okay, yeah, Kathy.
Could you explain the position?
Oh yeah, sorry. So University Council is a group of faculty, staff, and students, and they meet once a month to talk about different topics that all the different committees on campus are addressing. So Student Senate reports, CPC reports, faculty Senate reports. So it's a great way to come together and talk about all the concerns of the university. And they meet on Wednesdays at 3:30, and it's just once a month. So if you have any ideas of people who you think might be interested, I can contact them and see if the time works for them if they're interested. So if you guys could give 2 recommendations, that'd be great.
Can I recommend Senator Becker?
It can be people outside of Student Senate too.
I'd like to recommend Philip Walton.
Okay. Any others? All right, well, I'll let you guys know if I need anyone else for recommendations. But yeah, for that, for my report, that's it. Does anyone have any questions? And report.
All right, thank you, President Four. Moving on to my report. First, I'd just like to thank you all for getting your constituency reports in. Can't wait to read them. I have not looked at them yet because it's very busy, but I can't wait to read them. And what I will be doing with that is I'll be compiling all of the themes and issues from your reports into one, and I'm hoping, and that will be sent out to the deans and other administrators on campus, and hopefully it can resolve some things or bring up some ideas for some SRs. Second, new senators, if you have been brought on to Senate in this past semester, you guys will be getting headshots taken. The next before the next meeting on March 21st, we'll have a student photographer in the Victory Bell room from 7 to 8 taking your headshots. And these will go up onto our website and on the window in the Student Senate office. So just dress nicely for those. And that brings me on to my next thing is I hope all of you dress nicely for the next meeting, because this is the big one. This is when we're going to be voting on our constitution, bylaws, and addendums to finally adopt them, hopefully, if you guys choose to do that. We will also have our campus media here covering it and reporting on it. So we just want to present to the university that we have been working diligently and presenting ourselves as representatives of the student body. I believe, and next meeting, March 21st, Associate Provost Lisa Yogan will be coming to represent the Provost office to speak to us, as well as being a special guest for the potential adoption of the Constitution, bylaws, and addendums, because Student Senate has a good relationship with the Provost office, and the Provost office revises and signs into adoption of our Constitution and bylaws, so we thought that would be a special guest to have. Are there any questions for me? All right, moving on to Secretary Strauss. PRC Griffey.
Just really quickly, tomorrow, Student Life is starting a new initiative with event planning. So for Student Senate initiatives, we will be putting in forward potential dates for forums, just in case next year IU centers may be serving next year. We will have an open forum date set aside in case if that is needed. There will be one that will be held in late October as well as late February. So those are kind of two open dates. They don't have to be used, but we want to make sure that we have a space and time reserved just in case if next year senators choose to have an open forum. We are also going to be having a joint food drive again with APO that will take place during November during Generosity Week again. And then we also are we were talking with BSO to make sure that their We Matter Week gets planned accordingly. Does anyone have any questions? Report.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on to Executive Treasurer Lorenz.
Hello, I just want to say that I did speak at President's Roundtable today to go over the proposed financial model. I think that presentation went fairly well. Also, stipends were due today for organizations. If there is a organization did not submit it, please tell them to submit information possible, what's sent to their general organization email. So, any questions? That's important.
All right, moving on to committee reports, Executive Committee Chair Ford.
I just wanted to thank everyone in the executive committee for all of your hard work with the addendums, bylaws, and constitution. Our work is coming to fruition tonight as we introduce everything. And I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thank you, President Ford. Moving on to Finance Committee Chair Friso.
As Executive Treasurer Lorenz stated, he did present the new proposed financial model at the President's Roundtable tonight. Going along with that, more will come when we present it tonight, and also when we vote on it on March 21st. Having said that, I've gotten a lot of questions from organizations about when budgets will be due. More information will come after the new model passes, or if it passes on March 21st. However, I can say that budgets will be tentatively due at the beginning of April, so organizations can start thinking about what they want their budgets to look like, even now before that March 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Friso. Moving on to Admin Committee Chair Flanagan. Moving on to Committee on Media Chair Williamson.
So last week, Vice President Jacob and Dr. Whittier came and spoke to the Committee on Media about all the things that are possibly going to be changing with the proposed constitution bylaws. I feel like that meeting went very well. It was very productive. So we'll see going forward how that all comes down. Also, applications for the new media executives are in. We will be conducting interviews after spring break. Any questions?
Thank you, Senator Williamson. Moving on to Screening Committee Chair Beckery.
All right, hello everyone. So the screening committee has meetings before this General Assembly meeting, and we have 3 new nominations for senators. So the first nomination we have is for the College of Arts and Sciences senator, and our nomination was Meshach Melton, and the screening committee voted 3-0-0. Then for commuter senator, the screening committee's nomination was Caleb Mindel, and they also voted 3-0-0. And then for the position of webmaster, the screening committee voted 3-0-0 for Nathan.
All right, is there a motion to discuss, a motion to vote, a motion to vote as a slate?
Motion to vote as a slate.
There's a second. All in favor of voting as a slate, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, all in favor of approving Meshach Melton as College of Arts and Sciences Senator, Caleb Mindel as Community Senator, and Webmaster for Nathan Harmon, please raise your placards. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, all three passed, 20-0-0. Congratulations to the screening committee on only having one senator position left to fill.
Speaking of only having one more position to fill, that is the junior senator seat. And all junior senators, I did send out an email asking you to reach out to your constituents or anyone that you know who might be interested. So I'm just going to do one last push to all senators. Please reach out to me with any names you know might be interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Zachary. Moving on to Committee on Residents, Chair Abraham. Moving on to Dining Services, Chair Ballison says dining meetings open to students start March 23rd and April 13th at 3:30 in the alumni room. All are welcome to come. Moving on to Diversity and Inclusion, Chair Howard.
Hi, everybody. So Diversity and Inclusion Committees now have an official time. We'll be meeting bi-weekly on Fridays at 8:30 p.m. And then I'll have like the specific dates and times as well as the location after spring break. Is there any questions? Oh, your report.
Thank you, Senator Howard. Moving on to discretionary funds, Chair Rob.
No report.
All right. Moving on to new business, what you all have been waiting for. So first, before we go into the new bylaws, constitution, and addendums, we do have an SR to bring up. So the sponsors of SR 002, could you please come up and just briefly go over your SR? And just put up here if you guys see it.
So we're proposing a resolution asking for a sidewalk, leading from the area by, ASB and Mueller across to, parking lot 20. Currently, students are cutting across there, and when there was snow, they tamped down a path. We had a couple students who slipped and fell on ice. We're also asking for a sidewalk leading from the ASB Mueller area across to the walkways to the Union. We have pictures showing where we're wanting to put these sidewalks. So, any questions?
Are there any questions before this gets put into old business next week? All right, so this will be discussed in old business next week and voted on. So thank you, guys. All right. So since there's about 80 pages of stuff to go over, we'll be brief. Senator Rock, do you have a motion?
Motion to suspend Robert's rules?
There is a motion to suspend Robert's rules. Is there a second? All in favor of suspending Robert's rules, please raise your placards. Wow, is it unanimous? All opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Okay.
Can we talk?
So yes, without Robert's rules, our e-board members can talk as well. This will just be a discussion instead of points of inquiry. Who, what, where, okay. So with this, we're just going to briefly go over the Constitution, bylaws, and addendums. We're not going to read every single section and clause because that will take hours. If some of my fellow board members would like to come up and help me discuss the Constitution. So one of the biggest changes in the Constitution is that we have moved all other executive positions, excluding the president and vice president, into the Constitution. So this is set in our Constitution, not in our bylaws now, because that just makes sense to put all of e-board into the Constitution.
Yeah, so just a little run through of the Constitution. It covers the qualifications for the different executive positions, but also qualifications for running for Student Senate. It has different processes like how to run meetings, how to impeach, how to run elections, how to create amendments. So basically just different policies that make Student Senate.
One of the qualifications that we have gotten rid of for senators is to be a full-time student, because we feel that part-time students should have the same ability as full-time students to be on Student Senate. I'm trying to think because this has been 7 months of work. Are there any questions so far about the Constitution? You guys have been reviewing it for a few weeks. Are there any questions or concerns right now before we go deeper into anything?
We've also just updated generally the processes and duties listed under every executive position. So some of them included writing checks when we don't write checks anymore. Just kind of generic things that really don't really concern anyone.
One more thing that we actually did change, which is kind of big. So once we elect our student senators and our e-board members, we used to swear in our e-board members at the end of the last meeting of the school year, and swear in our student senators that were elected in the spring in the fall. So what we are doing now is we will be swearing in all elected officials in a new General Assembly meeting following the last General Assembly meeting of the year. So as soon as we swear in the new e-board at the last General Assembly of the year, that new e-board will immediately begin a new General Assembly right after that and swear in the new senators so that you all can start working over the summer as student senators. It's been a tradition where the e-board holds authority over the student senate decisions over the summer because that would be very hard to get a body of 30 people together over the summer. We did keep that, but everything that we do has to be approved by all of you at the very first General Assembly of the following year. So while you will all be sworn in student senators over the course of the summer, so you guys can do your committee work, because in that first General Assembly at the end of the year, you will also be electing your chairs. The General Assembly will be electing the chairs of the committees now, not just putting you in committees and the committees selecting the chairs. You all, the General Assembly, will be selecting the chairs. So you can get focused on committee work over the summer and everything. We just think this is more efficient and that we don't have to wait till the end of September to get things going for the year.
All right, so next up we got the bylaws. Pretty much looks the same, lays out the different constituencies. We're changing things up a little bit. We're keeping classes, but we're just gonna keep at large, make it 6 of them, 2 commuters and a graduate student. We decided to get rid of the transfer and the college seats because transfers should be treated like everyone else. We want them to be inclusive to our environment. They should not be having these different sort of stereotypes or any sort of different discrepancies with them. And with college senators gone, we know that this environment at Valpo, we really have a connection with our professors. So why should we have senators who focus on academics when we can just talk to our professors?
And there's also leadership in the colleges that you can just go to figure out any college-specific concerns or issues or anything. So by broadening this to just 6 at large, we're hoping that more people can run for Senate and that we're not limiting it down to the very minute communities on campus. And with the transfer senators, I mean, you guys have to try your hardest to find transfers on campus because there is not one big group that you can just go to. So we're hoping that transfers still run for Student Senate and they can still contact them, but it's just opening up the pool to who can run for senators so that screening isn't having to find 20 people to fill Student Senate positions.
So in terms of standing committees, we now only have 4. There's going to be a student experience, student operations committee, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then an outreach committee. Those will be explained further in addendums, and we also laid out ad hoc committees. Most of the bylaws pretty much stay the same. These are a lot of pages, so I'm trying to run through these as fast as we can because I do not want to be here all night. Yes.
So yeah, we laid out how elections are going to be run. Obviously, we're incorporating that into our screening and outreach. Yes, sorry, with the outreach. So there's some details on elections and how those will run. In the past, we've had paper signatures required, but we're going to switch over to hopefully having online signatures using Presence. So we're kind of changing the way we're able to allow people to run for Senate.
So going quickly over finances, I did speak at President's Roundtable today, so they are aware of most of this information, but really quickly, the big change that's going on is we're getting rid of the tier system, and we're moving into a category system, and new orgs are automatically going to be placed into their respective category, and we're going to allocate a percentage of the budget, the general fund, to each of these commissions. We're going to let the programming, media, and club sports commissions budget themselves without input from the finance committee, or in this case, not the operations committee. Special interests are kind of that catch-all group, and then we'll also have honoraries as the other commission. Special interests will be funded by the finance operations committee, and every org will receive a minimum of $1,000, and they can budget for more money if they'd like.
Are there any questions so far? We can start moving into addendums if there are no questions. So addendum 1, and this is all accessible on your agenda as well, hopefully. So for the executive committee, which is addendum 1, nothing much has changed in the executive committee except we've gotten rid of the rotating at-large position that sits on exec because it just never really works finding people to come to executive committee all the time. Executive committee is open to all of General Assembly, so you guys can come anyway. We don't have to make you guys come. That's really the only thing changed there. Addendum 2 is operations committee. So if Senator Parizo and Senator Flanagan want to come up and discuss that.
Hello, so the operations committee, as I indicated, is a combination of what we currently know as administration and finance. The reason for doing this, and after 4 years of being in the finance committee, I know this for a fact, that admin and finance work closely together. And it's really hard to do these processes in 2 separate committees. So it's really streamlining of this process to combine them. One of the things that, as Executive Treasurer Lorenz mentioned, is this new finance model. I would like to add that we're doing budgeting yearly now. So instead of this weird semester for tier 3s, it's not going to be yearly for everyone. And then re-recognition, I believe, is now going to be mostly handled through Presence, so it's not going to be like as stressful or as involved in the process. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. It just outlines the commission as already been talked about by Executive Treasurer Lorenz. But if you want to know the specific organizations, I can list them now or you can list them here. And I will say one last thing.
For the financial model, the percentages given to each group are based on a, I believe, 3 to 4 year average of 5 years of current spending. Thank you, Vice President Jacob. So they are very accurate on calling organizations now. The fact that it's based on their current spending and the goal to put not only like-minded groups together, make it more cohesive and give orgs a little bit more freedom, especially the ones doing budgeting a little bit more on their own. So it'll be programming, media, and club sports commission. Are there any questions about this event or operations committee in general? Or if you have anything to add? Perfect.
Are there any questions? All right, thank you guys. I'd like to add that beyond the chair position and now vice chair position, because we're trying to move away from like the title secretary, because we want to give more oomph to some of these positions in these committees. So beyond the chair and vice chair of the operations committee, the rest of the committee, which will be 5 members, will be delegates to these commissions. So I'm going to call up Senator Williamson to talk about addendum 2.A, 2.B, and 2.C. I'll have Senator Williamson talk about 2.B. So what these do are there's subsets of the operation committee. These are guidelines for the programming, media, and club sports commissions. So we wanted to have them draft their own guidelines so they have something to go off each year on procedure and what they want to accomplish in those commissions. So this is where our committee on media currently is going into. It's going into the media commission, which is essentially for financial and administrative reasons, but we will still have a delegate there from the operations committee to sit on media commission meetings so that Student Senate still knows what's going on in student media. So Senator Williamson, if you want to come up and talk about some of the initiatives that the media commission is doing.
I hope you all feel a little overwhelmed, and that's good because these are a lot of notes to go through. So, you know, as you have downtime over spring break, maybe you can look at these and give friendly amendments when we come back on our first meeting, or just any sort of notes. And you could just email one of us on the executive team and hopefully answer these questions over break.
I'd just like to add procedurally, after we go over it tonight, you cannot edit these at all since they are now in new business. So if you have any questions or concerns, please just comment on the documents, and then we'll go over that in old business.
So some of the main changes that are being made on what is now the Committee on Media and will be the Media Commission. We've kind of pared down how many people will be on the commission, which will make it a lot easier for meetings. Right now, it's very hard getting everybody together to have meetings. So there will be the media head from each of the media orgs, or someone that they appoint. If they can't be there, they can appoint someone to represent them, and their advisors, plus the Senate representative. The only voting members will be the student media heads, which is a change from before. Before it alternated back and forth between the media head and the advisor in the voting. So now it will only be the students who will be voting first, and the advisors will be there to advise and help them. The Senate representative will be non-voting, except in the case of a tie, which probably won't happen much in 5 words. And also just to help with mediating as needed, and let us know what's going on.
Are there any questions? So this structure will follow suit for the Programming and Club Sports Commission as well. So there will be a delegate from Student Senate that sits on there, and each president or a proxy voter from each organization that sits on those commissions will be a voting member of those commissions. And then their advisors will be ex officio, non-voting, but still be there in case of a need for knowing, for advising. So moving on to addendum 3, which is the Student Experience Committee. So if Senator Abraham wants to come up and talk a little bit about the Residence Commission under this.
And just a reminder for the sake of time, if we could keep these explanations to like a couple of sentences, that would be really great. And then if you guys have questions.
So we have kind of added all of the parking, safety, dining services commission and residence life commission all together. They are now one student experience group, and there are different groups within these groups. So there's the safety and parking commission, that is commission, and it contains two senator delegates from they don't want to read all of these out, but it's very clearly listed out underneath committee or committee membership, sorry. And then on top of everybody, there is a person that is the chair of the Student Experience Committee on the SEC board as well. This person is elected by the Student Senate with a 3/4 vote from the Senate. And the Residential Life Committee kind of still does the same main functions in that it gets the information from the student life representatives on campus, and there are many chairpersons within the commission itself.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Senator Abraham. So like what Senator Abraham said, this is just to streamline some of these committees. So we're putting Residence Committee, Dining Committee, and a new commission from Student Concern about campus safety and parking. We're putting that all into streamlining in the Student Experience Committee so that we're not having all these different standing committees for students to go to. They can just go to one for all of these problems because it's usually an issue that all students are having. So moving on to addendum 4, which is the DEI Committee.
Okay, so basically, the only thing that really changed is that, like, we added more structure to the committee. Before, when I first came in, it wasn't a whole lot of what I was supposed to do, or, like, other than, like, creating legislation. But we don't really do that in the committee. We're more so focused on, like, creating solutions or coming up with projects. So I added that in there. We've also expanded the amount of organizations that can be a part of it. It was only at first limited to, like, the OMP and OIP organizations. So now we have more for like other clubs that serve underrepresented students. Are there any questions?
Howard, moving on to addendum 5, which is the Elections and Outreach Committee. So if Senator Bakri wants to come up.
Okay, so for Elections and Outreach Committee, it's gonna be still that same piece, of screening if there are applicants that need to be screened. The whole goal of the committee though is to brainstorm new ways to make more excitement surrounding elections, and to streamline those processes so we can keep having contested races. And then along with the outreach piece, the committee is gonna be in charge of like planning events on campus, and getting Senate Day out there and getting it, connected with the campus community.
Any questions?
That committee will be working with what will now be the press secretary instead of PRC more closely to make sure we get correct graphics out and updated calendar and whatnot, all of that involved.
Yeah, so this is like our programming piece, as well as what Senator Bakri was saying, how to make elections more exciting, and also just how to make Student Senate more exciting. So they'll be focusing on retention within Student Senate too. So all of your lovely faces will come back the next year in elections and everything. And with outreach too, this is a piece that came up in our retreat last semester, with us trying to get more out to the student body. And this is what outreach will be doing. It's getting to the student body, getting out in the community, both the Valpo community and the Valparaiso, Indiana community. All right, any questions? All right, awesome. So moving on to addendum 6. So this is going over a list of ad hoc committees. Right now, we only have 2 ad hoc committees, discretionary funds and reapportionment. So with these ad hoc committees, they will be commissioned by the student body president at the beginning of each year upon their need. So, or during the school year upon their need. So, until we not use all our funds anymore, or until we use our funds, discretionary funds will probably be brought up each semester or each year, and reapportionment will come on need. Currently in our bylaws, reapportionment only comes every 2 years, but we didn't want to limit it to every 2 years, so reapportionment can be called up whenever to start looking at the structure of our representation. Senator Rob, do you want to come up and talk anything about the new GSC?
So the function of DSC is essentially the same as just using leftover funds. We're keeping the same guidelines and application schedule we used this past year because it seems to have worked fairly well. The biggest difference is that instead of just nominating an elected General Assembly somewhat at random, the way it's working now is the chair of DSC will be the vice chair of operations, so there's a direct connection to finance. And so that the head of DSC knows what's going on in finance or operations. And all the other members will be, each committee will have to select one person to also be on DSC if it is active. So that will make sure all different parts of Senate are involved and streamline the nomination process. Any questions?
All right, so near the end, so you guys can be happy. Moving on to addendum 7. So this was to take out a lot of bulk from our bylaws and to put all of our internal procedures, documents, and oaths into one place. So we can see here at the beginning with our oath of office. Our oath of office is procedurally now outlined in our bylaws, but we actually had the form in our bylaws. So we put that into this addendum so that we weren't adding 2 more pages to our bylaws that didn't need to be there. This also goes for elections because that form was also in our bylaws. And we also have sort of our own Senate rules of order and our own little Robert's rules outlined in here to be used. That's really all that's in that one. Are there any questions for that? Okay. Lastly, we have addendum 8, which outlines all of the university operated housing on campus, because in several points in our bylaws and constitution, some of the qualifications for a senator or a Senate position requires them to either live off of or live on campus. So for example, the student experience chair is required to live on campus, given that they are overseeing the Residential Life Commission, and commuters are obviously supposed to live off of campus. So we have these outlined here so that this can be changed whenever there's a new hall added or taken off, but that we are defining what it means to be a commuter or an on-campus person. So if a commuter is not living in one of these, or if a person is not living in one of these buildings, they are qualified to be a commuter center. Are there any questions there? All right, well, that is the last one. These are all referenced in our bylaws and constitution, so it gives these addendums authority, and it also makes our bylaws, I think, now 28 pages instead of 78. So that is really great. Along with our constitution, it is a lot shorter as well. So if there aren't any questions, yes, Steve?
My question, just wait until the end to answer our questions.
Okay.
Say something before you move on.
Okay, are there any questions?
Sorry,
Yeah.
going back to the ad hoc committees. But does a grievance committee not count as ad hoc?
No, it has to remain in our bylaws, because, it is a procedure that always has to be there. We don't really call up a grievance committee, it just has to be there. So, since that is a very procedural thing, it has to be solidified in our bylaws. And also our constitution references impeachment, so the grievance committee has to be solidified in the bylaws in order to give the impeachment article in our constitution authority. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Any other questions? Concerns, suggestions? Okay, Steve.
I would just like to say that this is a tremendous accomplishment, what has been done here. Early in the year, I sort of tail end of summer, early part of the school year, I challenged the executive branch to sort of remodel the house. There was nothing wrong with the foundation, but we had just changed and time had passed us by. And our constitution and bylaws needed an update. We needed fresh carpet, fresh paint. We needed it to speak to the moment that we were in. And this is a lot of work. The streamlining that has been put in place, the moves that have been made to simplify the life of student organizations in this have been really intentional and well thought out, very purposeful. They speak to the moment that we're in the post-COVID world and where we will be as a campus community doing campus activities. And I just want to say that I was sitting here talking with Dr. Cipolizzi, and he said, these guys really get stuff done. They do, and you all have, and everyone who has shared in this during the conversations and work of the past semester and couple of months. This is a tremendous accomplishment. You're down the road miles ahead of where others at this university are and need to chase you.
Seconded.
They need to chase you because you have laid out a pretty great path forward for this organization for the next 5 years. You have completed, in essence, your strategic plan for your organization, and you've done it in pretty close to record time. So I know that some of you are new to Senate, some of you are a little bit new to what goes on campus in student organizations like this one particularly, which is a governing body. And I want to make sure to note the gravity of this at this point in time and the gravitas of what has been done with all of this effort. So tremendous job, tremendous work. You own a piece of the moral high ground here. You get to camp out on that mountain for a while. Don't rest on your laurels, but you get to camp out on that mountain where the moral high ground is. So excellent work.
Thank you, Steve. All right, moving on to old business. Well, there's no old business now, but there shall be a lot next meeting, so be prepared for that. So moving on to public comment, are there any here or on YouTube? Seeing none, moving on to postmortem. I just want to echo what Steve said. Thank you all for all of your hard work that you've put into this. It's really going to come to fruition next meeting when we adopt these and then have to start thinking about how to implement them. I just want to say thank you again. Senator Jameer, welcome to Senate. You got a really good overview of what we've been doing for the past 7 months, so welcome. And all of you, we've accomplished so much over the past few months. So now it's time to finally take a break after midterms and papers. So enjoy your spring break. Have a healthy and safe spring break. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? I hereby adjourn this meeting at 9:52 p.m. Thank you all for all the time you have spent tonight.
Have a good spring break, everyone.